So, didn't play a ton of minutes last season, started 0 games. I think he averaged 25 or 26 minutes a game, and obviously won sixth man of the year. But um, I think the health, his health and his physical condition is a question mark. In addition to just like where he's at, as someone who's willing to sacrifice, because I'm sure he wants to play more. I'm sure he wants a bigger role. Um, no one really wants to come off the bench, and to kind of have those preconditions and have that mindset for a team that by all accounts tried to trade you is difficult. And it would be really interesting to see how he can swallow his pride, or if he's willing to do so.
Winning Plays is brought to you by FanDuel, the exclusive wagering partner of the CLNS Media Network.
Winning Plays back yet again as we inch closer to Celtics training camp, just over 1 week away. And there's no better person to take the temperature on this team right now than Michael Pina of The Ringer, formerly of the Big Three and Winning Plays podcast. But we'd love to get him back on here for bi-yearly appearances whenever we can grab. Mike, it's great to see your face. Also rocking the Spurs hat today. Are you in thinking about Wemby already? How are we feeling there?
Wemby, Keldon Johnson, Devin Vassell, big G pop. Just I'm in a Spurs mood for sure. A lot of momentum going down in San Antonio. How you doing, man? Great to see you.
It's good. I'm ready for some hoops. Had a nice little breather here as we all did. Got some nice FIBA World Cup in. Got to see the Daniel Tice show, and now we're ready for the main event here. But
I gotta say, I was thinking about you when Daniel Tice was just ripping through the world, the globe,
just destroying the USA's front line. So that's
Chris. You're destroying everyone's front line. It's incredible.
Yeah, just it's classic Tice. Always undervalued. But we want to get you back on here, Mike. We had Rich out on a couple weeks ago, but the three of us talked back in June after the Smart deal, but we haven't spoken to you since this full off season has gone on here. Since Grant obviously has departed, some minor moves made by the C's here, but obviously the Porzingis foot situation going into camp, a lot of other storylines heading into Celtics training camp here. What's your temperature right now on this team as we begin obviously a pivotal year?
Yeah, I think that through a combination of their roster and their pedigree and their talent, and just kind of how muddy the rest of the Eastern Conference is, where you have a lot of big players on the other contending teams. Giannis feels a little disgruntled. There's a lot of pressure in Milwaukee. The Sixers are kind of a mess. No one really knows what the Miami Heat are going to look like. All wrapped up together, I just think that the Celtics are the clear favorite to come out of the East, or at least be the best team in the Eastern Conference this season. And I don't say that with a ton of confidence, but I think that their ceiling is the highest. I think they have a pretty high floor too. And I like the roster. I like the changes that were made. I think Malcolm Brogdon is a really interesting variable. Porzingis's foot, really interesting variable. So health is going to be a question mark there.
Interesting is one way to put it.
Yeah. And then you have, I don't really know. I have a feeling about what the starting five will be and what the closing lineups will look like, but there aren't that many huge questions here either, which is really good when you're a team that's aspiring to win the NBA championship. So I think that they can have a top 5 offense, top 5 defense, and they're one of the best teams in the NBA again.
All right, well, let's talk about two things here then. Well, first, you brought it up, so I think it's worth giving the scuttlebutt this week, Malcolm Brogdon, which honestly, this is kind of, it took a break for a couple months, but this obviously, he was not happy, I think, in the aftermath of the initial deal not going through the Clippers. And now it's just been again, I don't think anything has necessarily, changed. He obviously hasn't spoken publicly in the last month, but there's a situation for him, both like his happiness factor and the injury situation of his elbow, which I think was talked about a little bit on NBA Today yesterday. Like, how I've heard a variety of things in this front. How do you kind of see the situation playing out with him of being like, bring it back, let's see what it looks like with this group in a similar role? Do you expect, him to be around for a full season here? Like, what's your kind of read? Or is this kind of a wait and see situation in your eyes?
I mean, it should be up to him, right? Like, assuming he's healthy, assuming what was it, like an elbow, forearm? I can't remember injury that he suffered. And then also he's got lower body question marks that have kind of prevailed throughout his entire career from when he was drafted. So, didn't play a ton of minutes last season, started 0 games. I think he averaged 25 or 26 minutes a game, and obviously won 6th man of the year. But I think his health and his physical condition is a question mark, in addition to just like where he's at as someone who's willing to sacrifice, because I'm sure he wants to play more. I'm sure he wants a bigger role. No one really wants to come off the bench, and to kind of have those preconditions and have that mindset for a team that, by all accounts, tried to trade you is difficult. And it will be really interesting to see how he can swallow his pride, or if he's willing to do so, and kind of repeat the role that he had last year. I would think that it would be a little expanded now with Marcus gone, and maybe it'll at least kind of shift a little bit in terms of how much the ball is in his hands when he's on the court. But he's really important. I think he's overlooked in terms of how important he is. And yeah, like you can still play a ton of really awesome lineups with him in it. And if the 3-point shooting is still what it was last year, then you're in great shape. But if it falters a little bit, that'll be interesting. But generally speaking, like, you have to feel a little, I guess I don't really know how I feel about him. I was going to say optimistic, but I don't know. A lot of question marks with him right now, and they kind of need him. So I don't really know what you would trade him for right now. Like, I was just thinking before we started recording about, like, Buddy Hield's on the trade block now, and it's like, oh, that'd be interesting. I couldn't like imagine that type of trade happening, but like, thinking because of just like the teams involved, and sending Malcolm Brogdon back to Indiana doesn't really make a lot of sense.
Yeah.
But he is an interesting trade ship, but like, why would you want to move off of someone at that age, at that point in their career, who has a clear role on your team and you're trying to win the title? It's difficult for me to kind of think of a possible trade partner there, unless you have someone in mind.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think, to your point on that, like, you don't, in my mind, if they ever move Brogdon, exactly, you need to get a big upgrade from him, you need a clear upgrade, and you're going to have to package like picks to do that with his contract. And those type of guys, I probably aren't that you're interested in, aren't available right now. And so that might be a situation where it's a down the line period. But I do ultimately think that they want to, you want to see what it looks like with this revamped group. I do have questions. I want to get your take on, like, is he a lock for a closing 5 on this team? Like, I never thought, like, for as good as he was last year in the regular season, and for as steady as he was captaining that second unit, I thought the fit with him in the closing 5, whether it was, obviously next to Smart most time, was tough last year. So I wonder what that looks like again next to Derek here, or whether that's something where they go with 2 bigs to close a lot of these games. I'm curious to see how that kind of plays itself out. All right, let's take a break to hear from our sponsor, FanDuel. Snap into the action this NFL season with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers get $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place a $5 bet. That's $200 in bonus bets, win or lose. If you've been thinking about joining FanDuel, there's no better time to get in on the action. The app is easy to use. There's a wide range of betting options, including spreads, player props, over-unders, and much more. So visit FanDuel.com/Boston and kick off the NFL season. FanDuel, the official partner of the NFL.
You would think that you have four guys who are going to be closing a majority of the games when they're healthy. So KP, Tatum, Jalen, and Derek White, right? Those are the four. I mean, honestly, it could be by committee for sure. I'm really high on the season that Peyton Pritchard can have. I'm pretty high on the season that Sam Hauser can have. I don't know if he's going to be closing a ton of games, but he's an option. You have Al Horford.
Al Horford's pretty good.
You have Rob Williams. You have like a lot of. I know that it'll be really interesting to see how Joe Mazzulla kind of evaluates his first year as a head coach and what worked, what didn't work. Is he going to play bigger lineups now that he has a little bit more skill on the court and a little bit more spacing? And KP is kind of a different type of big, really unique and singular. So I think that KP kind of gives you more options on what type of bigs you can play and what type of lineups you can play. So I wouldn't be shocked at all if they close big more often than not, because they have a lot of skill on the court. And I don't know how many minutes or how many games Al Horford's going to play in the regular season, though. And I don't know how healthy Rob's going to be throughout the regular season. Like, I feel like Rob Williams' ceiling is Defensive Player of the Year and his floor is irrelevance, right? So there's a questions from that perspective. But then again, like Malcolm Brogdon totally could close a ton of games and be awesome. And they could go small with Tatum at the 4 and still be really formidable. I think it'll also it'll depend on kind of the rhythms of the game and who they're playing, I feel like.
Yeah, it's certainly they'll have a lot of flexibility on that front based on the opponent. So that is like, going into camp, I feel, if Porzingis is like the top storyline in terms of his fit with this, with Tatum and Brown and how that looks in the court, I think Brogdon's just a close second, just for everything you kind of laid out there of both health stuff, mindset stuff, and then again, seeing how those groups kind of fit together here. But looking around the ECU, and you brought it up earlier, Mike, like there are question marks everywhere. Like, what's your read on how this like Lillard stuff shakes out? Do you think this is going to drag on to the year? Do you think this gets done with Miami early on? Or, I mean, we're hearing whispers of wild cards like Toronto or Chicago, like maybe putting in bids, but like, are any of those actually like realistic in your eyes? Or is that just, posturing that by Portland, maybe trying to up the price for Miami?
I haven't thought too hard about Chicago. I don't really know exactly what their draft.
I don't think it's great. I think they traded a bunch of stuff for Vooch, right? So it's like,
right. But I'm pretty sure that, and I hope I'm not wrong, going off the top of my head, that one of their protected picks that's extended, it rolls over through like the next few years, it belongs to Portland. So okay. I feel like if you were to have a trade there, that it would open up their ability to trade future picks down the line. So if that were possible, then Chicago suddenly becomes like a little interesting to me, just because they are going nowhere. The Lonzo Ball thing screwed them. And, they just signed Vooch to a long-term deal, like $60 million. They don't seem to. I mean, we'll see what happens with DeRozan. They have not extended him, but they have LaVine under contract on a little his max for a few more seasons. So Chicago's interesting. I wrote at the beginning of the summer about trading Scotty Barnes for Damian Lillard. That's just like not going to happen. I don't feel like. Maybe it will. That would be really fun, I think. So I'm always kind of thinking about Toronto because they're another team that, had a terrible offseason, lost their starting point guard. Dennis Schroeder destroyed Team USA in FIBA, but I don't think he's like a starting caliber point guard for a team that wants to do anything. So they're kind of in this weird crossroads stage with Siakam on an expiring, and OG Anunoby also, he has a player option in the following season. He can be expiring. So Toronto should be looked at as a player here. And then, of course, the Miami Heat. Like, I don't know what their best offer has been. Obviously, it's not the best offer that they can offer. But even if they get to that place where they're willing to give up Hero, Jovic, the kid they just drafted, and then like they can get however many. I think they can max out at 3 firsts if they do some stuff, and remove some protections. So like I don't think they've offered that. Even if they do, like, can you get something better than that for Lillard? Who knows? Miami better do this deal, honestly. If they don't, I think that they will. I thought that they were going to fall off last year, and it looked that way. It looked to be that way for much of the season until obviously in the playoffs they got red hot, and Jimmy was amazing. But like, losing Gabe Vincent, losing Max Strus, those were 2 starters, huge roles, huge contributions throughout the postseason, including in the conference finals against the Celtics. So yeah, Dame is a really huge wild card for this entire season. And I think that, teams like the Celtics and the Sixers will breathe a huge sigh of relief if he goes to Chicago or
Miami.
Yeah, I mean, what do you think? What do you like? Where? If you're the owner of the Celtics, like, what team would you not want Dame to go to? What would what would scare you the most?
It's Miami. Like, you don't want that's a clear cut. I mean, even like I guess Philly would be kind of scary, but obviously that doesn't look like it's like they're not going to trade Maxey, which it doesn't sound like they're doing. Like, that's not happening. And yeah, I think that's like easily Chicago's fine. Like, yeah, Chicago's a more fun team if Lillard's there, but they're not going there. Same with Toronto. Like, it's a more fun team, but also not doing anything. So yeah, I think that's the clear cut where you have if you're with Grossbeck. But and then I know you have to go here, but I'll wrap up on this. Like, with the Harden situation in Philly, like how do you expect that chess game to be played? And you're obviously very familiar with both the parties as a Red 94 writer of way back in the day. But what's
hell yeah,
what's your read on this?
I don't know. I feel like I'll just say this.
He's gonna blink.
We'll go out on this. I'm writing a column right now about the New York Knicks, and the New York Knicks should feel pretty optimistic about their chance of getting an MVP caliber player within the next 12 months. That's what I'll go
from Philadelphia.
You said it.
All right. That's a good tease, Leon. Look for that from Mike on theringer.com, as long as a ton of other stuff for training. Do you have a training camp plan yet, or is that in TBA?
Not yet. We'll see. Something could be in the works. We'll see.
All right. Stay tuned for that. Make sure you're following Mike on Twitter at MikeOVPina and all his great stuff on The Ringer as well. And we'll be back with you guys next week as we get ready for training camps coming just days away.
The CLNS Media Network is powered by FanDuel. Sign up at FanDuel.com/Boston and get in on the action with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed.
Ever wish you could navigate the betting field with the confidence of a pro? Enter OddsR. They're not a sports book, but they're the sports betting advisor you always needed. It's like having a playbook for smarter bets right in your pocket. I've been absolutely loving the experience, and I think you will too, especially since Celtics All Access listeners get a 30-day free trial. Elevate your game day and join the smart betting revolution. Go get it at oddsr.com/Celtics. That's oddsr.com/Celtics.